Good morning, Kevin, on this very, very fine fall morning in Toronto. And I see you've got a nice city background behind you, not water, not the island. You have a downtown office. Cool. Kevin, what should we talk about? Um,
We could talk about winter, but it still feels like summer right now. So,
it does,
yeah,
doesn't it? You are busy. You're like incredibly busy, and you're keeping us busy with all the news. So I want to touch on one thing, which is sort of the Porter focus on cross-border, trans-border traffic, which a lot of carriers are sort of pulling back from. You seem to be going full steam. Well, maybe not full steam, but you've increased capacity by 25%. You've announced a code share with American Airlines. These are big, big pieces of a larger puzzle that I would like to understand.
sure, sure. Let's break that down a little bit. Yes, we have increased sun capacity by 25% in an announcement that we put out this week. Keeping in mind that when we make that statement, what we're talking about is we published a winter schedule back in July, which introduced a number of new routes for Porter down into the Mexico and the Caribbean region. And what we're seeing right now is strength across that region and some areas of the US. And so we just published an enhancement to that schedule, increasing total capacity by 25% into the sun markets. And so, I'm
But
happy to.
but some of that is transporter, is it not?
That is, yeah. So
Okay.
I think it's good to I think it's good to break it down because we can talk about sun as a warm weather destination, of which some of it is in the Caribbean and Mexico, and some of it is in the US. And then there's a US story too that sits alongside that. So, maybe we chat a little bit about both. So
Please.
as we look at the Caribbean and Mexico, let's remind ourselves, what is Porter doing this year? We're going into five markets in the Caribbean, Mexico, Costa Rica. So that's Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, Grand Cayman, Liberia, and Nassau. So our first entry into those markets will be this winter. And we're doing it from three gateways in Canada: Ottawa, Toronto, and Hamilton. So those 13 routes for us, we've been monitoring how they've been booking since we launched sale back in July. And as a general rule, bookings are quite strong.
Great.
We've actually slowly added additional frequencies since we announced, as we saw that strength. And then finally here this last week, we kind of doubled down on that and said, let's go even deeper in because those regions are doing well. So that's looking at the Caribbean and Mexico. Now, let me just talk Sun USA, if we can, for a moment.
Okay.
Across the industry and for Porter too, capacity is down into those Sun markets on a year-over-year basis. So as we look at Florida, for example, we're still in 6 cities across Florida. We've got a great presence this winter, but capacity frequency is down a bit this year as a result of the demand issues that we're all aware of. But some markets are doing better than others. I would say, as a general rule, within Florida, Fort Lauderdale and Miami are doing well, and perhaps they're being supported by cruise. Western Florida is doing pretty well. Orlando's struggling a little bit, and maybe perhaps Orlando has a bit of the challenge that Vegas does for maybe iconic
Yeah.
U.S. nations that may be struggling. We can look at the Southwest U.S. Capacities down there as well. All carriers have cut. But Phoenix for us is doing really well this year, and this will be our second year in Phoenix. And so, as part of the announcement that you just saw us put out, not only are we really bullish on Phoenix, but we actually added nonstop from Ottawa, and our first
Yeah.
nonstop from Western Canada is going
Yeah.
to be Vancouver to Phoenix. So, Western US doing okay.
Now,
Phoenix,
now, is
and
this
yeah,
primarily driven by northbound, point of sale US, or is it driven by Canadians going to the
all
US?
southbound. It's all southbound.
All southbound. Wow. Really?
Canadians are not abandoning the US, but Canadians are reducing their travel to the US. And it isn't all a leisure story. You might find it interesting to know that the Northeast US, New York, Boston, Washington, Chicago, those markets clearly are seeing a reduction in travel from Canadians going into those regions. So it isn't all leisure, it's business as well.
Yeah.
So it exists. The demand is the demand reduction from Canada into the US is clear.
Yeah. The reduction, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, the reduction in demand is clear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. And yet you're strengthening your relationship, transporter, with American Airlines. So tell me about that.
So, I can talk about the demand is down, but Porter's still growing. We have additional aircraft we're taking delivery of, and there are a number of markets that we have strength in today that we're going to continue to invest in, and there are other markets that we want to enter. Obviously, transborder is an important market. The issues we're going through today, I think, will at some point subside. And this opportunity for Porter to launch this code share with American Airlines, which we announced this, I think is a great opportunity for both carriers because for us, it allows us to provide service into smaller and mid-sized markets in the US that we may not fly directly. It also allows us to strengthen some of the markets where we already fly, like Phoenix, for example, which is a hub for
Yeah.
American. Great part of that strategy. I'm not going to necessarily speak too much on behalf of American, but what Porter would bring to a partner like American is very strong point of sale in Canada. We have a very loyal customer base in Canada, obviously, and people want to fly with Porter or our partners when traveling, beyond our network. So I think for them tapping into our strength in Canada is an important part of their own
Okay.
strategy.
So on that note, you have a loyal base because of a number of reasons, one of which is, of course, the aircraft, the cozy jets with the leather seats, just two abreast, the service on board, etc. So someone who is used to that service, whether it's on the Dash 8s out of the island or the jets out of Pearson, and then connects in the US onto an AA flight, which, let's face it, I'm sorry, American Airlines, it doesn't compare. It really does not with our Canadian service standards, and your beautiful aircraft. So, how does that then sit with the passenger?
I think consumers understand when they are switching carriers that they will experience the service of what that carrier has to offer. Porter has a number of airline partnerships, whether it's American, Alaska, Transat, a number of partners.
Yeah.
I think passengers appreciate that what Porter is doing through its partnership strategy is increasing options competition, improving better pricing for consumers. I think that's ultimately what Canadians care about. We are providing a competitive alternative to what existed in Canada before our growth, and our partnerships allow that for them as well. So I think that's what people are really focusing on.
It's interesting, right? Competition, what it does in the marketplace. Case in point, of course, being the onboard service that Porter launched when it launched back in 2006, which is beer and wine and snacks, is now being adopted by Air Canada, presumably to compete and match Porter's onboard service. So the consumer wins, big time Canadians win. How do you feel about that when you see those types of announcements?
Yeah, well, let's go back all the way to 2006 when Porter launched from the island airport and the service that we provided at Billy Bishop, including the onboard service that we were offering. Our competitor that you named matched our product then, and they only matched our product in the Triangle. And
Right.
so now Porter is expanding our footprint across Canada and the United States, and our competitor matched there. And now Porter is expanding into the Caribbean and Mexico, and free beer and wine to the Caribbean and Mexico on our competitors. So I think what that demonstrates is Porter is impacting the market in Canada. It is causing our competitors to up their game to attempt to fly, excuse me, attempt to match what we're doing. But I'll tell you how we discuss it internally at Porter, as we think about competitors who might be trying to match the product. My point of view on that, and I feel pretty informed when I make this statement, is it's one thing to offer free beer and wine, whatever, that's great. But flying on Porter is a feeling that people have when they step on board the aircraft. They feel the way we greet them. They feel the way the aircraft is. They feel the hospitality, the free beer and wine in a glassware. No one can mimic that. You can give away free beer and wine, you can give away free snacks, you can throw it in a plastic cup, you can do whatever you want to do. But Porter is a feeling when you travel with us. That is our unique competitive advantage. And the number one phrase that I can tell you that people give, which tells us that, is the minute I say I work for Porter or I mention the term Porter, the next response out of people, I love Porter. I can
Well,
pretty much guarantee you no one says that about our competitors. So It's more than just free beer and wine. It is something that we make passengers feel a certain way when they travel with us. That's what they like about it. And I don't think that could ever be matched.
There's no doubt there's a cachet, I would imagine, even from the pillbox,
Yeah.
hats that the flight attendants wear, well, the female ones anyway. Yeah, why aren't the men wearing those little hats? I'd like to see that. But anyway, listen, the question really then becomes, yield, profit, etc. However, it being a private company, we don't have access to that information. So, when you look at your competitors who are publicly traded organizations, and every single little move, every cost addition is analyzed down to the fraction of a penny, it becomes much more difficult to maneuver. So you've got some leeway there.
Well, we may be a private company, but a lot of the data that exists commercially is available across carriers. We can see the fare performance, the load performance of our competitors, and they can see ours as well. So I feel very comfortable, frankly, with our fare position in the market. I think that we get a fare for our product that is reflective of the offering that we provide passengers. Even when you come down to costs and profitability, doesn't matter whether you're public or private. It's all the same, issues from a business point of view. And even Porter's paying close attention to every penny that we spend. That's not unique to a publicly traded company. It's a tough business. It's a low margin
Yep.
business. I don't care who
Yep.
you are. All of us are making sure we're trying to grow market share. We're trying to improve yields. We're watching those costs. We're trying to drive efficiency, because at the end of the day, you can provide an incredible product, but the way that you remain sustainable and in the marketplace for we're coming up on 2 decades is you've got to be able to do that profitably.
Yeah. Yeah, margins are tough in this business,
Yeah.
particularly right now. Overall, did you think that the timing of the co-chair announcement with American Airlines was maybe a little bit tricky in light of everything that's going on in the government shutdown in the States? Or do you find that it doesn't really make any difference in terms of politics and airlines mixing or not mixing?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I was looking at some of the social media comments to our partnership with American. Generally, they were quite positive, and there were some political comments embedded, and that's how the world is today.
True.
Obviously, we're taking a longer term view. We're building an airline here to compete for a very long time to
Yeah.
come. We're doing that through a number of partnerships. The current environment is a point in time. I'm looking at some of the early bookings that are coming through that code share. Clearly, people like the offering. It's already
Okay.
starting the first week, exceeding some of our early projections of what we thought could be
Wow.
possible there. So I'm not worried about the political climate. Airlines can adjust capacity. They move aircraft around to match demand. We will get through this period, and partnerships like American remain important because Canadians are still traveling to the United States.
Thank you so much for your time, Kevin. Always love talking to you and understanding some of the business strategies that Porter is involved in. It's a
Thank
fascinating story to watch and continue to watch. And hopefully, we get to celebrate 2 decades soon.
All right. We're looking forward to it. Thanks,
Thanks,
Nina.
Kevin.